If you had told me a week ago we would be starting out on a cross-country road trip right now, I would have thought you were crazy. But here we are on day one of our probably 4,000 mile road trip.
Happy travelers, we did something crazy this week.
So a few weeks ago I got sick of making repairs on my old car and I sold it. Little did I know used car shopping in California would be an absolute nightmare. All the cars were really expensive. So we did the only logical thing, which was fly to Cleveland and buy a Subaru. We ended up buying a 2012 Subaru Forester with only 57,000 miles on it. This car is super clean. We're really excited about it. It looks like it's brand new on the interior.
And he's in love with it.
I had one Subaru before. It was like 15 years ago and I loved it and I've always wanted another one since. Found this one and pulled the trigger.
But now we have to get it back, so we have to drive it, of course, and I just happen to have 2 weeks off of work, so
we're gonna make a fun road trip out of it.
Cross-country road trip! After making our way out of the city of Cleveland, our first stop is Cuyahoga National Park.
I had no idea that Ohio even had a national park. Our first stop is always the Visitor Center, so we've just arrived at the Boston Mills Visitor Center. This park is all about the Cuyahoga River and the canal that they built to connect the Ohio River to Lake Erie. The river itself wasn't good enough for transportation, but it was a good source of water for the canal. In this national park, you're gonna find lots of walking trails. They have a scenic railroad, a ton of different waterfalls you can see, and old historic buildings.
So something I like to do when I'm in a new national park is to figure out exactly what makes it good enough to be a national park and not just like a national monument or a recreation area or something like that. There's a lot of history in this area. There's no entrance gates where you have to pay admission. I think what makes it national park worthy is that the Cuyahoga River actually used to be one of the most polluted rivers in the United States in the mid 20th century. Because of all the industry that was going on throughout Ohio, they would just kind of put all of their sludge into the river, and it was really polluted and trashy and gross, and it actually caught fire more than a dozen times. Eventually environmentalists were like, hey, rivers should not be catching fire, so maybe we should clean this up a bit. That's what prompted the government to protect this, is they made a huge turnaround. The animals came back. It's a really nice urban park now. And they just wanted to protect it at the highest level of government. So now the people of Akron and Cleveland have this beautiful little national park that they can enjoy. And we're gonna go see some of the highlights, I think, and go see the other things that make it worthy of being a national park. One of the interesting things that I'm not a fan of this park so far is that 2 freeways go over the top of the park. They have these huge, super tall overpasses, so you can hear the freeway noise. It kind of ruins the national park illusion, but you gotta keep the people going somehow, right? From what we can gather, the #1 thing to see in Cuyahoga National Park, yeah, right, Cuyahoga. We had to look it up on Google to see how to say it, but it's Cuyahoga. The #1 thing to do in Cuyahoga Park is go see Brandywine Falls, which is where we're hiking to now. There's a lot of hiking, walking, and biking trails in this park. Like I said, the Brandywine Falls is probably the most popular thing to do, and it is all a boardwalk, so it is handicap accessible.
One thing about this park is it is a urban park, meaning that the city is really close nearby. There's also a lot of houses from people that live inside the park boundaries. So it's like a bunch of different towns, residential areas. Intermingled with all of that is this national park and all these trails.
The park was established in 1974, so I imagine the houses were there before the park.
You can hike down to the base of the falls right here. It's something like 50 steps down, or you can continue along this way and go to the viewpoint, which is on the top of the falls.
As an addendum to what I said earlier, the top of the falls is handicap accessible. There are some stairs to go down to the bottom of the falls. Can confirm the waterfall's pretty. 10 out of 10 recommend.
Now that we've seen the lower viewpoint of the falls, obviously we have to go to the upper viewpoint of the falls.
There was actually a mill at the top of Brandywine Falls, and then after that there was a factory taking advantage of the moving water for electricity, and then the factory got destroyed by lightning, I guess. The old foundation is near the top of the falls now. You can go see it.
So the most popular hiking area in this national park is called the Ledges area. The Ledge Trail, which is about 2.5 miles long, takes about an hour and a half to complete. Takes you down some stairs by these big rock cliffs where there's some caves and all sorts of areas that you can climb around and check it out. It's pretty cool out here in the woods. It's crazy because there's like a city that's just right over there, but out here you don't feel like you're in the city at all.
If I listen really closely, I can still hear the turnpike. One good thing about this park is that it's summer and we're like the only ones here. Not crowded at all.
Ooh, should we go through there?
It's like an Ohio slot canyon.
Cool. There's also this crazy cave. This cave has been closed because they don't want the bat population in here to have something called white nose disease. So you can't go in there anymore, but it's still really cool to see. Kelly probably wouldn't want to go in there anyways because there's a lot of mosquitoes.
That's the only reason though. I would go in otherwise. This area is cool, but now we have to go check out the covered bridge. So there's a covered bridge in the national park, which is pretty cool. I like them during fall better. They're a little bit more magical, but still cool to see. This is Everett Covered Bridge. This is a reconstruction, and they started building covered bridges in the early 1800s in order to preserve the actual wooden floor of the bridge because they were hard to replace. Who knew? And Ohio actually led the nation with over 2,000 bridges. The more you know. One last stop in Cuyahoga National Park. This is Beaver Marsh, which is an area that was a marsh, and then when industry came in, it was farmland. They restored it to its original habitat, and when the animals start to come back, you know it's getting its health back. So I want to go see if we can see any beavers.
So to get to this Beaver Marsh, we're going on the towpath trail, which was used during the canal days. They would have animals, they would pull the canal boats. Now it's been turned into a biking and hiking area that goes town to town throughout the entire park. Walking to the beaver pond, we came across Lock 26, a remnant of an old lock that they would have used on the Erie Canal. It's pretty cool that stuff like this is still left over.
I think we've made it to the main part of the marsh, and I'm mainly looking for wildlife. That's why I wanted to come here. We didn't intend to spend 5 hours here, but somehow it is now 4:15 and we still have quite a bit of driving to do today. So we're gonna head back to our car and start heading west again. And don't forget to subscribe because we're gonna make lots of videos of this crazy road trip. Until then, this is Kelly from The Awkward Tourists. Peace out.
We're trying to stop at as many quirky roadside attractions as we can on this road trip.
But the old foundation, ooh, centered a tunnel. Hello!
There are bats that live in there, and all the white noise from people being inside has kind of affected them. So that area is completely closed, but I think you used to be able to go in and explore it. But, what?
It's closed because of white nose disease.
Not white noise?
No.
What's white nose disease?
A bat disease that they don't want affecting this population.
Oh. That makes a lot more sense. I had one Subaru before. It was about 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
I don't know, I didn't know you 15 years ago. Had to keep the people going. I'm trying not to get hit by a car. Oh, sorry. Okay. You gotta keep the people going. Well, we didn't intend to spend. Cut.